Está llevando la cumbre de desamparados. Cuéntame la importancia de esto.
Pues para nosotros es la segunda conferencia anual sobre este tema de estrategias para reducir los números de personas que no tienen hogares, que están viviendo en la calle, personas desamparados. Sabemos que este trabajo no se va a hacer solamente del condado de Monterrey o de San Benito o las ciudades, sino es un esfuerzo entre todas las iglesias y organizaciones comunitarias para seguir haciendo progreso. En los últimos 2 conteos de personas desamparados hemos tenido reducciones de 15, de 20%. La próxima conteo va a ser en enero los fondos que vienen del Estado y del gobierno federal dependen de este conteo y por eso queremos seguir haciendo progreso en reducir las personas que están viviendo en peligro en la calle, sin hogares o sin servicios.
¿Como cuántos desamparados en el condado de Monterrey ahora más o menos?
El último número era casi 3,000 personas. Hemos tenido reducciones, pero sabemos que hay mucho más trabajo que hacer, que el público ve este problema y sabe que necesitamos hacer mucho más. El problema más grande es que necesitamos construir más viviendas económicas para cuando están en un refugio no queden ahí por muchos meses. Podemos ponerlos en un hogar, ayudarles a conseguir empleo y darles esos servicios de salud mental que les pueden ayudar a establecerse otra vez y poder mantenerse adelante.
Bueno, sabemos que el condado ha hecho mucho, construcción de ese centro para desamparados. Cuéntame qué ha hecho el condado para ayudar a esta crisis.
Hemos visto que en estos 2 nuevos centros que tenemos en Salinas y uno que tenemos en Seaside están llenos, pero poniendo familias y personas en esos servicios les hemos ayudado a más de 250 personas ponerse en casas permanentes aquí en Salinas. Y casi 2/3 de las personas que hemos ayudado en casos les hemos conseguido empleo y eso ha sido algo tan fuerte para ellos poder mantenerse yendo para adelante y por eso queremos seguir ese trabajo y este problema no se va a resolver por un día a otro, sino es familia por familia, persona por persona, estamos haciendo progreso. No solamente en Salinas, pero ahora tenemos proyectos en King City, tenemos otro proyecto en Monterrey y en los próximos meses nos vamos a enfocar en el norte del condado, en Pájaro y en Watsonville, con una colaboración con el condado de Santa Cruz y la ciudad de Watsonville por primera vez. Tenemos esfuerzos que no existían 2-3 años atrás, pero ahora hay más voluntad, más liderazgo entre los líderes comunitarios y electos para hacer más para resolver esta crisis que tenemos, no solamente aquí localmente, por todo el estado de California.
¿Cómo se llaman esos centros de
le dicen Housing Navigation Centers.
Navigation Centers.
Centros tiene un nombre diferente porque no es solamente como un refugio donde se quedan personas la noche, pero eso es para ayudarles con esos servicios de cortar casas permanentes y darles esos servicios como empleo y otros servicios de salud.
Les dan comida, les dan tratamiento,
comida, todo, sí, claro, sí, ya.
Okay, tell us about the importance of this summit.
Yeah, in terms of homelessness requires collaboration from multiple stakeholders. This space is for us to get all the stakeholders together. It takes us looking at the hospital system, the family system, education, services providers, bringing them all together to really have conversations to how we can help homelessness. This is our space, the first one in Central California.
What should be done? I mean, we need more funding, we need more rooms. What should be done?
Always need more home, or always need more housing, and it needs to be continuous. It needs to be every year we're looking to build more affordable, more permanent supportive housing. It is not a one-stop solution. It is a continuous cycle of always making sure we're growing the solution with the population. Funding, crucial. There needs to be consistent funding coming in to support our unhoused population.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. Tell us how long ago were you homeless?
So I was facing homelessness last time during the pandemic in about 2020. And I was staying in my RV, actually in an encampment at Colonel Durham in Seaside. And as soon as the pandemic ended, they actually dispersed the encampment. They said everyone has to leave. And that was kind of, that's when I got involved at that point. And once they told everyone, this is it, you guys have to leave, I was like, well, where are we gonna go? You're telling us we have to leave, but you're not giving us any options on where we could go. So I started attending meetings at that point just to try to see, you know, the thing is that there was no voice for the people. You know, I felt that we weren't being heard at all.
How long were you homeless, living in your van?
So at that point, probably for about a year. A year.
You have kids, wife, or just by yourself?
Just by myself and my girlfriend at the time.
Your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then did you find a job, or how were you able to turn everything around?
So yeah, I was able to I started going to some of the leadership council meetings, and then I actually saw that they had a position open for a person with lived experience to actually join the leadership council. So I signed up for that. I was able to join the leadership council. I was actually able to get into housing, and actually got housing. I've been able to help others achieve housing. So that's kind of, you know, I just formed the lived experience advisory board as well.
How old are you?
I'm 37 years old.
37. So what do you think? What can you tell all those people that come in from different agencies? What is the solution? It's not that the magic one, but what do they need to know, and what do they need to work on to be able to solve the crisis?
To solve the crisis, obviously there needs to be more housing available, and also just there needs to be a sense of compassion and understanding that everyone has their own unique story, and the solution is to help them and have that level of compassion and understanding, because everyone, you know, you never know when you could be there yourself. And there's so much like NIMBYism, you know, people like not in my backyard and stuff like that. And it's important to come together as a community to help solve the issue instead of just brushing people away.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all being here today. I'm deeply honored to stand before you today as we kick off the Summit on Homelessness. My name is Genevieve Lucas-Connell. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. Today, we gather with a shared commitment to addressing one of the most pressing challenges of our time, and I'm honored to stand before you as we embark on this crucial journey together today. This summit is not just a gathering of minds. It is a convergence of compassion, innovation, and determination. In our midst, we have national leaders in the field of homelessness who have dedicated their lives to understanding, alleviating, and ultimately eradicating this complex issue. We also have the voices of those who have experienced homelessness firsthand, offering invaluable insights and guiding us towards a more empathetic and effective approach. The theme of our summit is clear. It's about systems change, and it's about engaging in genuine conversations with those who have lived through the harsh realities of homelessness. Our intention is simple yet profound: to collaborate, to listen, and to find practical solutions that will bring us closer to ending homelessness. Together, we have the power to drive change, to challenge the status quo, and to reshape our societies in a way that ensures every individual has a place to call home. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors for making this event so special, including the County of Monterey, Montage Health, Community Foundation, and Union Pacific. As we embark on our journey today, we want to make you aware of a couple of housekeeping items. We will be hosting breakout sessions throughout the day. So to my right is the gallery room, and to my left is the Vista room. We have a room for new mothers just outside these doors to my right. If you are needing Spanish translations, we will have Spanish translators. Feel free to grab a headset from the table in the back from IT. We also have bathrooms right across the rotunda. If you need to take care of yourself, please do at any time. We also have a patio. We want to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. Lunch will be available to everyone starting at 11:30, and lunch is provided by Dorothy's Place. Thank you, Dorothy's. Yes, indeed. We did a lot of work on that. Goodness, I saw the menu. It's tasty. As we go through this event, please take time to fill out the survey. There's a QR code on all of your all's tables. This QR code will lead you to a survey to support us in implementing a local community plan. And if you don't want to do a survey, we also have a community input session at the end of the day. Our conversation with service providers and landlord is unfortunately canceled, but please stay tuned. We'll make sure to reschedule something as special later on. As well as in your programs, you'll see that there's a couple of sessions in the Gabelin room. They will now be in the Sunny Vista room instead. I now have the beautiful pleasure of welcoming our Continuum of Care Leadership Council Chair, Luisa Lejo, and a special guest, Governor Newsom's Senior Advisor on Homelessness, Hafsa Kaya. Help me welcome them, everybody.
Thank you very much. Good morning. What a great turnout, right? Can we give each other a round of applause for making this issue a priority here in Monterey and San Benito County? I'm very honored, and it's really beautiful to see such a great turnout here. I'm Supervisor Luisa Alejo. I'm the chair of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors, and also the chair of our Lead Me Home Leadership Council for our Continuum of Care for Monterey and San Benito counties. I want to thank you for joining us for this second annual Homelessness Summit. And we are at in-person capacity with so many local elected officials. We have state and federal leaders, and also our community, our faith, neighborhood, nonprofit, and youth leaders registered for this hybrid event. And we have many more joining us on Zoom as well. So this is definitely another outstanding turnout, and reflects a tremendous interest from our local communities in being part of solutions here at home. So we hope that this will be an annual tradition that will continue to grow, and we will engage more residents and our businesses. I do want to thank all our organizers here today, Genevieve and all the organizers. Can we give them a round of applause for it? Who did a tremendous job? Thank you for that. But we also want to acknowledge our partners, and Genevieve mentioned some of them, but I really want to thank our sponsors that if they couldn't join us here, they provided funds for us to hold this conference. So I want to acknowledge the Monterey and San Benito counties, the City of Salinas, the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers, the Community Foundation for Monterey County, Montage Health, Union Pacific, Natividad Foundation, the Central Coast Alliance for Health, Comcast, Anthem, Pinnacle Bank, and Community Human Services. And we hope to have more partners join us for next year's effort as well. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. After devising our new 5-year plan to end homelessness last year, our Leadership Council directed that this summit be held to bring policy makers and community leaders together to get us on the same page about the new plan, to help us better support and inspire each other to carry out the needed work in every part of our counties. Today we are proud that both counties, Monterey and San Benito, and the cities of Salinas, Monterey, Soledad, and King City have adopted the plan, and we invite all other cities in both counties to join us as well. We are honest with ourselves. This work is not easy. It takes a lot of courage and bold leadership, and it's not going to be solved overnight. But we recognize that we need more homelessness champions that are willing to go the short and long distance to reduce homelessness in our communities, and to carry out this work with compassion, dignity, and respect for those we aim to help. A true measure of society is how we treat our most vulnerable, our homeless, our poor, and our marginalized. And I want to say that I'm so proud to work with many remarkable elected officials, nonprofit, and community leaders who elevate to that challenge each day. Together, we have made some great progress over the last 3 years, including reducing homelessness by 12% since adopting the 5-year plan. Thank you. We have opened our first ever share center, our homeless navigation center here in Salinas and Casa Noche Buena and Seaside, and we are moving forward Project Home Key projects in Salinas and in King City that will create a couple hundred units of permanent supportive housing. We also have an additional shelter moving forward in the city of Monterey for the first time. And I also want to point out that the County of Monterey, our Continuum of Care, and the City of Salinas have worked closer than ever and have forged a very close partnership to carry out solutions together. And it didn't happen by coincidence. We have been very intentional because we know that collaboration is key in getting things done. Our efforts have now extended to King City and South County, and most recently to North Monterey County. We are collaborating for the first time with the County of Santa Cruz, the city, and the City of Watsonville on our first small homes project. But we know that even with these significant benchmarks, there's still much to do. And there's much that each of you here today can directly be part of in terms of our solutions and help us continue to make strides forward in addressing our crisis here at home. We also need to keep advocating for state and federal funding to build more affordable housing and permanent supportive housing for our most vulnerable. Our goal is that every city and every entity in both counties will have resources to be able to get their unhoused residents off the streets and into services, housing, and employment. In the third year of our plan, which is this year that we're in, we have recently amended our continuum of care governance structure to allow more participation by the public. We are strengthening our CARS assessment procedures. We are amending our leaving home plan and implementing our first ever youth systems, including our youth coordinated entry. And we will be conducting our next point in time count come this January to once again measure our progress on addressing homelessness. And we will be asking for your support once again to help have an accurate count, as this county is used to draw down millions in state and federal dollars for our counties and cities. This morning we are excited to have a great list of speakers and panels for you on some of the most pressing issues facing homelessness, including some of our local residents who have also faced homelessness themselves. But I wanted to invite my colleague, I don't know if he's here, Colin Kosmicki. Oh, perfect. I want to invite my colleague from San Benito County, Supervisor Colin Kosmicki, who is the co-chair of our Leaving Home Leadership Council, to share some words. I have been proud to work with him in strengthening and elevating our collaboration between both counties. Can we give a big round of applause to Colin Kosmicki?
Thank you, Supervisor Alejo. What I've learned in my short time on in this organization is that Supervisor Alejo brings an immense amount of enthusiasm to the table with these issues, and that's certainly what we need on this particular issue. It's appropriate we're all here together from all these different counties in the area here because homelessness is a true regional issue. Homelessness does not have borders, and so it is absolutely crucial that all of us work together, whether it's local government, state government, federal government, our nonprofit organizations. We all have to get on the same page on this issue. There really isn't, to me, a bigger test of humanity than how we are going to address homelessness and poverty going into the future. So I know there's a range of optimism when it comes to homelessness. Some people have given up altogether. They just have thrown their arms up in the air. They don't think we can solve it. Some people are perpetually frustrated. And then there are people like us in this room. We believe we can solve this issue. We absolutely must solve this issue. And we have to get on the same page. We absolutely must succeed in solving this crisis and find a real path forward. And yes, this is partially a housing issue, and I know that is a big focus of this organization. Housing is a crucial element to solving the homelessness crisis.
Accountability is a key as well. And data and the work that you're doing needs to be heard. So with that being said, I just want to wish everyone an amazing summit, and thank you for inviting us today.
Thank you, supervisors and HAFSA, for opening our summit. We really appreciate it. Esteemed guests, it is with great pleasure that we introduce our esteemed keynote speaker, Helene Schneider. With a distinguished career spanning over 17 years in municipal government, including her role as mayor, city council member, and housing authority commissioner for the city of Santa Barbara, California, Helene brings a wealth of experience and dedication to our summit. As a valued member of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness National Initiatives team, take a breath, she serves as a vital bridge between federal, statewide, and local stakeholders, working tirelessly to support and enhance efforts to end homelessness and facilitate critical connections on related policies, resources, and best practices. Helene's deep commitment to affordable housing policies and her advocacy for innovative solutions to homelessness have made her a respected figure in the field. Her accomplishments include chairing the U.S. Conference of Mayors Hunger and Homelessness Task Force and serving on the League of CA Cities Board of Directors. Please help me give a warm welcome to Helene Schneider.
I will say, just before we get started, How many of you woke up at something like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because the earthquake alert went on? Yeah, my hotel did too. But that's probably going to happen while I'm speaking. So hopefully it's nothing in particular that I said, but we should treat homelessness like the emergency that it is. So when that happens, we should probably stop, drop, roll, hold on, all those good things for a couple minutes. So just to give you, before you freak out, right? Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. I really appreciate the kind words, and what a turnout. Really, really impressive. We got breakout rooms that are covered right now for people who are listening in. We have people who are streaming online, so hello to everyone out in the worldwide clouds, web, whatever you want to call it. But really, I first want to thank Genevieve for your leadership, for putting this together and for connecting with you. And I know whatever tomorrow and the days beyond bring, I know it's going to be amazing. And to thank you so much for your leadership right here in Monterey County that have reverberating effects all throughout the state and the nation. So thank you, Genevieve, very much. I also want to acknowledge, I know online this morning and in the room, we do have some other federal partners here, and I want to acknowledge Ed Cabrera, who's here, who's the HUD Field Office Director for the Northern California office. So Ed, good to see you here. So if you have any issues with HUD, there he is, not me. If you have any compliments, I'm open. No, just kidding. Genevieve mentioned my background before starting at USICH was in local government, and I really want to acknowledge and thank the local government, city and county leaders who are here today in connection with community leaders and social service agencies and faith-based groups and business groups. So much of it takes all of us together in the role that we play to make this work. When I served as mayor, there were a few people who I interacted with on a regular basis, off and on, with their struggles with homelessness. And I'm not a social worker, bless you who are. That is hard, hard work. But sometimes there are a couple people I wanted to mention. Andrea is one of them. I never saw Andrea until something went wrong. And all of a sudden she'd show up at City Hall, she'd show up at public comment. She would ramble kind of conversations with her 2 minutes, but she had a good point, right? And to try to figure out what it was, and then to try to connect her to whatever it is that she needed. And then things would be fine again, and then something would happen, and I'd see her again. She was a great poet too. I have some of her poetry. But that, kind of constant reminder of the real life situations that happen. And then there's Sheila. Sheila, do you remember when there were Borders bookstores around, right? Remember those? We had one on State Street in Santa Barbara, and Sheila, lovely woman, I think in her 50s, she had a shopping cart filled with her stuff, sitting on a bench most days right outside Borders. She would either draw or knit or crochet, something like that, not doing anything but a presence, right? And we got a lot of emails and comments about this presence downtown, and she knew who I was, I knew who she was. She'd say hello, mayor, as I walk by, kind of thing, and she would come to City Hall each night, or most nights, to plug in her iPad or her phone to charge it at night, kind of thing. So, she was a regular for presence, and lovely, calm, sweet woman who needed some major help. She had family in town she did not trust, and one day I was coming to City Hall, and I realized I had not seen Sheila for a long time. And I had to think about that. I thought about I hadn't seen her, right? Like, it had been a while. So I reached out to one of the street outreach workers interacting with her, and I said, what happened to Sheila? I was like, oh, she finally said yes to housing. And it took a long time. And there was a place the City Housing Authority converted. It was like a motel. It's like a home key before there was home key. They converted this motel into permanent housing. The city put in redevelopment agency funds when that thing existed ages ago, to make it work. And soon after I talked to the street outreach worker, there was an open house there, and I got to go, and there she was, sitting outside her room, knitting, and she looked up and said, hello, Mayor Schneider, how are you? Same thing, right? And it made me think about how much it takes and how many people have to interact with Sheila or with Andrea or with whomever the name is to make something happen. And then when it works, it's invisible. And sometimes the general public does not see what it takes to make it work and how we need to tell our stories better about what does work, because what people see is when things fall through the cracks. And it's typical with public comment or comments, or you don't call customer service to say thank you for the work you do each and every day. You call customer service when there's an issue, right? Same thing goes with letters, public comments, public meetings, town halls, right? You're focusing on challenges. But I think we need to acknowledge the work of every day and how hard it is, and that success is invisible, and that we need to rise up and shine a light on those things. So I wanted to bring that up in the context of what I wanted to talk today about the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness and our federal strategic plan. And kind of the themes about what does it take, right? What's that secret sauce? And a lot of it's right here in this room. You are a small but mighty coalition here. My gosh, the work that you've been able to do in Monterey and San Benito counties, you have all the right players in the room interacting with each other, putting summits like this together. So important. That political will is really important. Political will not only about the elected officials, of course, we want that. We want the 5 supervisors, a 5-0 vote on things, right? We want the 7 or 5 or 11, whatever the city council situation is, to vote for funding, to vote for services, in the face sometimes of very heavy criticism or rhetoric or misinformation, to just move forward and get that political will. But political will is not only subject to people who hold elected office. You all have some form of political will in some capacity in your realms of experience, in your realms of accountability, realms of authority, whatever that may be. And to use that to, as was mentioned during the opening comments, for coordination of services, to collaborate and connect on what you do well and let others do what they do well and connect when necessary, to work with a space of dignity for all who are involved and connected, and to respect their stories, and persistence, that never give up attitude, right? Sheila was asked 30, 40 times, not just asked, but talked to, engaged with, whatever adjective you wanted to talk about. She was there, and it took a long time to make that happen. So that is the big picture. And what we try to do at the U.S. Interagency Council on Government is give some guidance and some tools to help local communities make that happen. USICH, and we'll have a panel a little later on this as well, is a federal interagency, standalone federal interagency that sole focus is on preventing and ending homelessness in America. And we have 19 different federal agencies who focus on this. The councils, like our board of directors, and each administration decides at what level of government, what the attention is. And this administration has made it at the very top. It's the secretaries who show up at these council meetings on a quarterly basis. VA Secretary McDonough is our current chair. HHS Secretary Becerra is our vice chair, soon to become chair. HUD Secretary Fudge is our immediate past chair. And then we have either the chairs or the deputies. We have Neera Tandon from the Domestic Policy Council there. We have education, labor, social security, Department of the Interior, FEMA's in the room, DOJ's in the room. So 19 different federal agencies all trying to figure out how this works. And the way I like to say it is USICH is the hub of the 19-spoke wheel to keep the issue moving forward. And so the council meets quarterly. They appoint an executive director who's a political appointee, and then the rest of us is like 18 people throughout the country. We're tiny. There's some policy folks who work with other federal leaders in DC, a couple of communications folks. If you've looked at our newsletter, they're the ones that do the magic behind getting that out there. Some administrative staff. And then I serve as a member of the National Initiatives team as a senior regional advisor. There's 6 of us around the country. And our goal and our job is to connect what happens at the federal level in local communities, but much more importantly, hear what's going on in local communities so we can bring that information up to the federal level and work on peer mentorship or work on peer connections, figuring out best practices around the country. The other part USICH needs to do in terms of this guidance by statute, we're required to put together a federal strategic plan. And have any of you seen it? You know, if you've seen it before, it's called All In. It was put in last December. And it has this massive goal that is going to take all of us to all in to make it happen, with the goal of reducing homelessness nationwide 25% by 2025. We think it's a huge goal, it's a possible goal, and we need California to make this happen for sure. And we need Monterey to stay, we need a county to continue doing the work that you're doing to get to that goal. This is a long-term plan, and it's intended to support and promote real systemic change that will lead to a nation in which no one has to experience the tragedy and indignity of homelessness, and everyone has a safe, stable, accessible, and affordable home. That is the idea behind it. We are pursuing an issue and a philosophy of housing is a form of justice and a right, and through the transformation of these systems and institutions that have historically left too many people behind. When we put this plan together, we did a number of focus groups, both virtually and in person. It was just as COVID was allowing us to start having a couple of in-person things, but a lot of it was virtual. We had over 500 people who said that they had personally experienced homelessness give their own personal feedback as well. One person with lived experience from Sacramento, California, I think said it really well when this person said, "It is time that we quit blaming people and start blaming bad policy that has displaced people since the beginning of time." And that is the focus here that we need to focus on. So All In has these pillars, and there's these three foundational pillars and then three kind of solution pillars. And across these pillars, there are strategies and action plans, and you can go online and look at it and go into real wonky detail. We can talk about that offline, because I don't have much time for that, and the earthquake's going to start happening and all that good stuff. But a lot of stuff is in there. But the first one I want to say about foundational pillars is to lead with equity. And we have to be intentional in our efforts. So the strategies and the actions within this pillar focus on ensuring that federal efforts to prevent and end homelessness promote and advance equity, to pursue actions such as examining barriers to compensating people with lived expertise, and changing policies that have intentionally or unintentionally perpetuated disparities. It sounds good on paper, it is hard in practice, but that is where we want to start. To help with that, we have a foundational pillar of leading with data and evidence, which is to inform decision-making and policy development, strengthening the federal government's capacity to collect, use, and share data, while also working to build state and local capacity. In order to help make good decisions, you need the data to back you up. In order for elected officials, when they have an item that's on their agenda to make a good decision, they need sometimes the data, right, to back it up. We're going to hear a lot about that, I know, later today as well. LGBTQ community, homeless youth, Latinos, people with HIV. How do we make sure we get the good data that's good quality information? And then collaboration, as mentioned before. Wherever I go, I try to tell people to give your COC some love, right? They have a lot of work and do a lot of the work. They get some money, but they don't really have a lot of authority in the same way that other agencies that get direct funding do. And yet, it is all on them a lot of time to put out the information and get the work there. It's so important to collaborate with your continuum of care. And that includes bringing in our public housing authorities to the best potential that we can. Cities and counties and social service agencies, all the things that were said during this morning's opening remarks. Then we get into the solutions pillars. And the first one seems kind of obvious. To solve homelessness, you need housing. I like to quote the governor, shelter solves sleep, housing solves homelessness. You need shelter, but ultimately we need to get to housing. And how do we get housing with the connection with the supportive services that's affordable, that's accessible, and at the level that people need for as long as they need it? That's the housing first approach. And I think we've been under this scarcity model where we haven't had the opportunity to really lift up the level of housing and services together to make housing first work. So it looks like sometimes it feels like housing only, and that's not what it is. Housing first is getting people to have a safe place each and every night that they can call home, that they're comfortable with, that they can then focus on whatever it is that they need focusing on, whether it's about substance abuse rehabilitation, mental health care, a job issue, whatever the situation is, but we need to make sure those services are at that level that they need and the funding ongoing to make that happen. That's challenging, but that's really what the focus is on. And then, of course, on both ends of the spectrum, we need to talk about unsheltered homelessness and the crisis response, but also about prevention. And the crisis response, huge issue all throughout the nation, mostly on the West Coast. There are areas outside California and the West Coast that have high levels of unsheltered homelessness, but it's really a West Coast concern. High levels of rent, wages aren't catching up with them, number of housing units not available, that collaborative piece over a period of time. So really taking a deep dive focus on working and addressing people who live in encampments or experiencing unsheltered homelessness, but to do so in a way that does not criminalize those who are most vulnerable. And to do, thank you. So one of the items that we've had is on our website that we could talk about is we have some principles about addressing encampments, about connecting collaboratively, about working with the people in the encampments to help them find their solutions out of the encampment and into housing or other forms of shelter and services, what to do with their items and storage, and how to handle the area after the encampment area after the fact so it doesn't then get repopulated with another encampment. Very tricky, very politicized, very emotional issue that has big impacts. And so we try to do what we can to try to help give local communities guidance in that area. A newer part for us, as I mentioned, is prevention. And this is new in the sense of USICH looking way upstream of how do we stop homelessness before it starts. And not just looking at homelessness from the moment of crisis, like someone's just about to get evicted, although that is certainly important. And during the CARES Act and during the ARPA funds during COVID, the amount of funding that came from Treasury and other federal agencies for rental health assistance, we know, we have data now to show how much that prevented a huge rise of homelessness in the country. But what happens way upstream? What about the foster care system? We know who people are who are within the system. In a given year, almost 20,000 foster youth age out of care, and between a third and almost to a half of them exit foster care and experience homelessness by the age of 26. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. We know who they are. We know they're in a system. How can we not look upstream in prevention and figure out what is it going to take to be them successful into their young adulthood? In veteran homelessness, 6.9% of the adults experiencing homelessness are veterans, and veteran women are more than twice as likely as non-veteran women to experience homelessness. We know who the veterans are. They are part of the VA. And we've seen great success with veteran homelessness going down. Since 2010, veteran homelessness nationwide has gone down more than half. Why? We got the housing and the services as an ongoing piece that is sustainable in terms of the amount. Still some work to be done, right? Still some ways that we need to streamline and get things done better to connect with people. But we show that is good data to show that housing and services together reduces homelessness. I wanted to touch base on one of the other initiatives through the federal strategic plan, and you might have seen some news yesterday and today in Denver, but it also applies here in California, that has to do again with addressing unsheltered homelessness. And this is an initiative we call All Inside. So we have All In, which is the federal strategic plan, and then we have All Inside. California, I know, has a phrase, California for All. And then Los Angeles, who's one of the communities that's part of All Inside, Mayor Bass's thing is Inside Safe. So I just say Californians for All Inside Safe, and I think we're got it down. That's for the part for LA. But on May 18th, we launched this initiative. It's a place-based approach that includes the state of California. The other communities are LA in particular, Dallas, Seattle, Chicago, the Phoenix metro area, and then as of yesterday, Denver. And the idea behind here is to create an innovative and tailored support to participating communities through 2024, the end of 2024, where we embed a federal employee in each of these communities to really focus on the wonkiness of policy that leads to gridlock and to get rid of that gridlock, that bureaucracy busting kind of work. Deploy teams and have people throughout our federal agencies dedicate time to focus on what is it going to take to make it easier for people like you across the room doing the work on the ground to get people from homelessness and into housing with supportive services, to get it faster, to get it less expensive, to make sure that if you're abiding by one policy over here, you're not violating another policy over there, to really streamline those kind of pieces. Trying to also figure out how we can convene philanthropy, private sector, other communities to identify these opportunities. So California is it's the only state in it, and because we wanted to acknowledge and recognize the amount of state investments that's going on in communities throughout California, and what can we do to then make sure that the state policies and federal policies together are working as best as they can. So we're in the state of California, the way we're focusing on it is through a people-based approach, looking at veterans, looking at youth, which are aged 18 to 24, I believe, and then older adults, which is 50 and plus. I'm over 50, and so it's like, okay, but I guess I'm an older adult. But older adults, veterans, and youth aged 18 to 24. So the scope of the project will be to identify ways to reduce federal barriers that might be currently preventing them from accessing housing and services. So for an example, you have some, Home Key was an example that came up where the governor and the state legislator put out a significant amount of money for communities to renovate or purchase a motel hotel, convert to permanent housing, and they waived CEQA requirement, CEQA review for this, the California Environmental Quality Act. Well, some of these same projects that communities were looking at, because of the funding stream related to it with the federal funding, then sparked NEPA, the national, so it's like, well, you fixed one, but what about this over here? So what are the things that we can do to streamline those areas? So some questions I'll leave you here with that would be very helpful in getting us to the bottom of this and really figuring out what we can do. It's wonky, I know it, but we know when we get this kind of really detailed kind of work done, we can really make things work better for everyone. So think about those three populations in California that we're focusing on. And are there any federal barriers that you can identify that hinder access to housing and our services? I know one answer is we need more money. I wish I could wave a wand and give that to you, but that's not one of the, but like look at the policy issue, look at the structure and moving forward. For these federal barriers identified, do you have any examples from your community on how those federal barriers could be reduced? The more specific examples we can bring to our federal partners, the better communication and kind of creativity we can come around to figure out how to make this work better. Are there any federal waivers that have been implemented in your community for these three populations that have helped improve services? What happened during COVID that we were able to do that have now been closed off now that the national emergency declaration is over? So what could be implemented on our end? So things like that, and please do reach out to me to see what is possible. And then my job is to connect with our federal team leads who cover in California. There's also one in Los Angeles, so focusing with both of them and helping move these pieces together. Cody's here as well. You're going to hear him a little later on the panel, and he's been very much involved in this. So again, I just want to, come back to that political will, the coordination, the collaboration, the dignity of the work, and to work with dignity and respect all of those who are involved in this work, and that persistence. And I'll end with one more story that happened in Santa Barbara. This was related to our police department has a street outreach component to a restorative policing component. And they met with this woman who, in 2017, the happy story at the end, in 2017, she reunited with her 3 children after they didn't know where she was for more than 10 years. What happened was she went missing from Valencia. This was back in 2006. And her son reported her disappearance to the LA County Sheriff back in 2006. It was entered in a statewide database. Detectives were trying to follow leads. They got nowhere. Little did we know in Santa Barbara, this person was in Santa Barbara. She could not remember her name. She's 68 years old. She had severe memory loss. She called herself Mary. She didn't know her social security number. She did remember she had 3 children. She slept outside the library pretty often. She worked with various organizations, Doctors Without Walls, our restorative policing program, maybe went to the shelter once in a while. And in those times, that engagement, trying to figure out who, like, is it Mary, is it someone else? Like, but she'd say, I don't remember my name. She was at the PATH at the local shelter for almost a year, consistently connecting with providers. And one day, she was able to tell someone, my name is Gabrielle. And she gave her full name. So the Santa Barbara Police Department went to the missing person database, and lo and behold, there she is. Connected with her family, she went back to Colorado. She met her grandchildren for the first time. And someone from the department said, you know, this is a story about an entire community keeping this woman safe, taking care of her, not giving up hope, and at the end, we have a miracle. And that's the work that you do every day. I want to thank you for that. And I'll end by another person during our federal strategic plan and what this person said. It's from Fairbanks, Alaska. And it's about really, in all the work that you do, to please take the time to take care of yourself and how important self-care is for you and your team. And this person said, direct service providers are soul-crushingly tired. Please reach out to them. Please listen to them. They need to know that people in power support them and want to improve their broken systems that they're working in. So thank you for that, for the work that you do each and every day. I'll be here all day, be happy to talk with you, and I hope this is the beginning of many conversations into the future. Thank you so much.